Camp Dogs by Dylan Newkirk. The dogs patrolled around the camp fence each day at the break of dawn. They walked proudly, stiff and upright, at the side of their masters, obeying with perfect loyalty the bellows of command that echoed through the cold morning air. Sometimes they merely marched and pranced about. That gave them all a good measure of joy. But then, other times, they would perform other duties. Sometimes the guards, their masters, would sick them on those without the spirit of hard work and devotion, and those were really the moments where they felt proud. It was, after all, what they'd been bred for. One morning, as Ernst the German shepherd was out on the dawn fence patrol, his master happened to stop unexpectedly near the entrance to the Joy barracks. This was contrary to their established routine, and it made Ernst uncomfortable. But he was loyal beyond a fault and obediently remained stock still while his master had a conversation with the man smoking out front. Worried about dereliction in his eternal duties, but unable to stifle fully his canine curiosity, Ernst looked around the fence at all the disparate activity. Over there, on the other side of the fence, walking the same patrol as he and his master were his good friend and fellow camp dog, Werner. Werner was good. Werner was loyal. His teeth had broken in the course of his duties, but he was still fervent in obedience. Standing guard in front of D barracks, there was another one of their cohort, Adolf. He was a good dog, Ernst noted with great respect. He mauled a hesitant worker like no one else, and was clean in short order afterwards, too. Cleanliness was important. Cleanliness was civilized. Beyond, Adolf IV and Adolf V were snarling in good spirits, leading a group of ragged prisoners from one of the barracks to the bad-smelling concrete building. Sometimes, Ernst missed Adolf II and Adolf III, but it wasn't his place to doubt their master's decisions. It was true, those two dogs hadn't been up to snuff when it came to aggression in the line of duty. After a short interval, Ernst and his master resumed their patrol. Nothing could distract his master. Ernst knew that. Not for long, anyway. It felt good to be up and moving again, for it was early, the sky was overcast, and the land was drenched in gloom. The air was frigid from the chill, and dawn's warming light was suppressed by the slate-gray clouds enshrouding them all in darkness. The column of prisoners struggled in the shuddering cold, but unlike the heroic masters and the loyal dogs that served them without question, they lacked the will to persevere with dignity. Ernst was made ashamed by them, by their flagrant disregard for ordered movements and all aesthetic considerations. They made the camp disorderly, and though he didn't show it, Ernst suspected that the chaos made his master sad. Anything that inspired sorrow in his beloved master produced a guilty rage in the ever-loyal Ernst. The camp was not in good order. Ernst knew that, but it wasn't the master's fault. They were trying their best, but the prisoners made it hard for them. That was why they needed dogs to patrol and guard and fight when necessary. He watched admiringly as Adolf IV and Adolf V ran in perfect unison, herding their wretched charges like sheep to the slaughter, while above them their master reared up majestically on his black horse, brandishing his riding crop and shouting commands of life and death silhouetted against the gray sky. Midday, the clouds had broken, and the sun had come through like the light of pit fires in the dead of night. Ernst rested his hot belly on the cool wooden planks of the commissary's front porch. His master was inside eating his lunch, and he tied Ernst's corded leather leash to the railing as he always did during meal breaks. Ernst had already been fed earlier, and was satisfied for the moment, but that didn't mean he wasn't looking forward to the scraps his master always saved for him from his plate. Mostly, he was content to take a moment's rest in the middle of a busy day, and watch the goings-on of the camp pass him by. Here a whipping, there an execution. Necessary, necessary, always and only necessary, thought Ernst sagely. A terrible sound interrupted his orderly rumination just then, the piercing whine of a cat's meow cast across the smoky breeze. Ernst felt the hair along his back bristle involuntarily. He knew this sound and hated the familiar annoyance it signaled. Sighing inwardly in resigned aggravation, he rolled over on his back to glance in the direction that meow had come from. The cat was purring now, slithering against the cook's legs as he poured it some milk on a saucer. Shameless, Ernst thought contemptuously, as he watched the feline detach itself from the departing cook and began to lap at the milk with obvious, and in his opinion, sickening relish. After indulging in the milk for a minute, the cat rolled over on its back and began to rub itself all over the floorboards, its resonant purrs growing louder and more satisfied by the minute. As if that bout of scratching had been some immense exertion, the cat stretched out in a puddle of sunlight and became the picture of relaxation. That creature didn't work, Ernst judged harshly. It didn't grow tired in honest duty. So what business does it have coming here to lounge and be fed treats? It wasn't his business. Ernst recognized that. So he turned away to look over at the squadron of healthy, robust young men leading a parade of skeletons across the square. So little flesh to strike, and they were still driven forward by the whips. Ernst thought this must be a testament to the master's genius that they could manage such things. The cat finished its milk and promptly decided to spoil Ernst's good intentions. It sidled over with typical feline nonchalance and sniffed at his back. Ernst felt the hairs on his back stiffen and rise in response to the cat's unwelcome breath, but he tried to remain still. Hopefully the cat would take the hint and leave. Ernst didn't like the things it said. Looking determinedly straight forward at the tableau of righteous violence out in the square, Ernst felt a grim satisfaction as the skeletal figures who fell behind were justly chastised with due extremity by his masters. As he contemplated, in his canine fashion, what exactly made the implicit rules of human packs so very different from those of dogs. A glib feline face dropped into his field of view and stared into his eyes. Ernst resisted the urge to snarl or snap at the impudent cat. He didn't want to give the creature any of the satisfaction it would no doubt feel if it knew how uncomfortable Ernst was made by his presence. He shook his head and got up on his haunches, retracting his face and arching his back involuntarily, to put some distance between himself and the cat that seemed to have absolutely no interest in the concept of personal boundaries. The cat sat down and looked quizzically at Ernst. After a moment of silence, the cat spoke. "I'm bored. What are you doing?" Ernst snorted. If he were human, he would have probably rolled his eyes. "You know what I'm doing. I'm taking a rest, a brief rest, in the midst of a hard day's work. A deserved rest," he added, with what he thought was a good, judgmental sort of glare directed at the shiftless cat. The cat seemed to smile. "Oh, yes, me too. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking a little break from the slog of life in the company of death. A little respite from the tedium." Ernst knew he shouldn't deign to respond. He knew the cat was only doing this to get on his nerves. He couldn't help himself. Propriety demanded an honest retort. "You don't work. You don't need a respite from anything." Ernst paused and thought for a moment. "Except, perhaps, sloth," he added with satisfaction. He thought he'd been quite clever just then. The cat merely yawned. "You have to work to earn your keep. I don't have to do anything, and they give me things. Doesn't that say something about which of us is more valuable around here? I am necessary, I guard the prisoners. I do the hard work needed to keep the camp working." The cat rolled its head and sniffed. "I don't see any reason to hurt them. They didn't do anything to me. I don't gain anything by doing it." Ernst grimaced. If this cat wasn't owned by the pup of his master's master, he would tear it apart right then and there. Obviously, given that title of ownership, he would never do such a thing. "You think that way because you are an inferior species. You are lazy. You are capricious. You are selfish. You are like... Ernst trailed off. It seemed somehow wrong to say it to the commandant's pet, whatever he thought of it. The cat laughed mockingly. "I am like... what? You can say it." Ernst bared his sharp canines at the cat, just a little, and retorted contemptuously. "I don't have to play your stupid little games. I have work to do, something you will never understand. You're just like these people. We have the duty to guard and protect our masters from..." Yes, that's right. They don't understand loyalty or hard work or any of the virtues, and neither do you. The cat sniggered in disdain and listlessly scratched the wooden stoop. "You want food, you want shelter. You don't care about any of that nonsense. You're far less noble than you give yourself credit for." Ernst grimaced. "Parasite." The cat just looked away and started licking itself, as if Ernst wasn't even there. Frustrated beyond his ability to process, Ernst was so very relieved when he heard the furious voice of his beloved master issue in an incontestable and familiar order that restored all certainty and security to that loyal, hard-working German shepherd's little world. "Ernst, grab that dog." He saw the target, saw why his master had emerged from the commissary so suddenly. This cretin was pawing through the trash, shamelessly searching for food that was not his to take. The emaciated man dropped to his knees and raised his hands in a hopeless gesture of supplication directed towards Ernst's master. The master's only reply to this plea for mercy was a grin and a snap of his gloved fingers. Ernst responded to his master's summons by attacking the kneeling prisoner and left the cat behind, where it sat grooming itself on the stoop. The cat didn't even look up. It just stretched its leg even higher and lapped its fur clean, while sobs transformed into screams of pain in the background, beyond its notice. Ernst didn't have to look up from his task to know beyond any doubt that his master was beaming down upon him from atop the commissary's stoop, pride in his noble eyes. The cat might have amused itself by aggravating Ernst, but he was about to avoid all that pent-up rage with an unrestrained bout of good, honest work. This was what life was all about. At the end of a hard day's work, Ernst enjoyed his bowl of wet dog food. He relished the warm shelter provided by his master, the food, the firm hand of command. That was what he lived for. Savoring the taste of his fine evening repast, Ernst watched the sunset through the parlor window. The light was beautiful, though he could only guess at the colors it truly begat in the eyes of his master. Some things were not meant for his kind. A thin trail of smoke passed in front of the setting sun, a reminder of eternal duty and unthinking purpose. Ernst felt something in between his teeth, and he rubbed his foreleg against his gums in an effort to dislodge the mysterious object. It fell on the fine wood floor. It was a piece of human skin, tattooed along one tattered edge. Ernst looked at it for a moment, then looked back at his bowl of savory wet food. The human fragment was ugly. It didn't fit in with the fine furnishings of his master's house, the elegant interplay of refined interior design and the glorious light of the sunset illuminating it. After a minute of consideration, Ernst licked up the tattooed skin fragment, swallowed the pesky thing down, and return dutifully to his dog food. He didn't want to embarrass his master by leaving an untidy house. That would be truly uncivilized.